The European Commission has expressed concern about the increasing number of cases launched against journalists in Turkey in light of a prison sentence handed down to today's Zaman editor-in-chief Bülent Kens for allegedly insulting President Recep Tayyip Erdogan in one of his Twitter posts, and has called for a better environment in the country in regards to freedom of expression and the press. Kens was given a suspended prison sentence of 21 months by an Ankara court last week. The ruling was made public on Tuesday. In response to a question from today's Zaman, EU Commissioner Johannes Hahn's spokeswoman Maja Kocijancic highlighted on Wednesday that freedom of expression is one of the essential foundations of the EU, which Turkey has long been seeking to join. The Commission pays a lot of attention to this issue in the accession process with the candidate and aspirant countries. The state and maturity of democracy in a country can be judged based on the state of the freedom of the media and respect for it. We are concerned about the growing number of cases launched against journalists, Kocijancic said. Another EU institution, the European Parliament, EP, recently condemned the Turkish government's pressure on free media in Turkey. In its Turkey report approved on June 10, the EP condemned Turkish authorities twice for their media crackdown. The Ankara 14th Penal Court of First Instance ruled last week that a Twitter post Kens wrote in July of last year constituted an insult against then Prime Minister Erdogan. Thankfully, the respected mother of this shameful man didn't live to see what kind of son she has and saved herself from that torture, Kens tweeted last year. In his defense, Kens denied all the charges and argued that his remarks fall under domestic and international laws protecting freedom of speech. We have repeatedly called for a better enabling environment for the freedom of expression and press, in line with Article 10 of the European Convention for Human Rights ECHR and the case law of the European Court of Human Rights ECHR, she added. Pressure on journalists has been rapidly increasing in Turkey over the past several years. It has almost become a daily occurrence for Erdogan and Justice and Development Party, AK Party, officials to sue journalists either for their reports or simply because of tweets they dislike. Many journalists are facing terrorism charges or charges related to the alleged insulting of state officials. On Wednesday, another EU official, co-chair of the Greens group in the European Parliament, EP, Rebecca Harms, also strongly condemned the prison sentence given to Kens, saying that the ECHR must be involved in Kens' case as well as those of other journalists. Describing the prison sentence given to Kens as proving that there is no justice in Turkey for journalists who criticize President Erdogan, Harms told today's Zaman, "This is a court ruling fulfilling the will of the president." Nearly 2 years in prison for a tweet is a scandalous decision which must be strongly condemned. The European Court of Human Rights must be involved in this and in other similar cases. Another European politician, Sir Graham Watson, president of the Alliance of Liberals and Democrats for Europe, ALDE, party in Europe, also voiced his uneasiness and condemnation of the prison sentence handed down to Kens. 21 months in prison for a tweet considered libelous by President Erdogan. It did not even mention his name. Turkey needs free speech, wrote Watson from his Twitter account on Wednesday. The prison sentence given to Kens also attracted criticism from press organizations such as the Britain-based National Union of Journalists, NUJ, International Press Institute, IPI, and German Journalists Union, GJU. Last month, Kens faced 6 charges over his tweets in a single day after Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu filed complaints against him. More than a dozen journalists remain behind bars in Turkey, including Taraf journalist Mehmet Baransu and STV network executive Hidayat Karaka. Zaman daily editor-in-chief Ekrem Dumanel was also detained for a week after his newspaper was raided by police in December 2014. Reporters Without Borders ranked Turkey 149th out of 180 countries in its latest Press Freedom Index, while Freedom House listed Turkey in the not free category regarding media freedoms. EP strongly condemns Turkish government. The EP Turkey report penned by Dutch socialist Kadi Piri had strongly condemned the Turkish government's gag policies vis-a-vis the critical media in its report on June 10. In 3 paragraphs, the EP condemned once again the December 14 police raid on the Zaman and Samanyolu media outlets. The following are the relevant paragraphs of the report. 21. Urges the government of Turkey to guarantee media freedom as a matter of priority and to provide an adequate legal framework guaranteeing pluralism in line with international standards, condemns the efforts made by the Turkish government to ban access to social media and websites or close down the latter without a court order, its restrictive approach to freedom of expression and the pressure put on media outlets and journalists, which often results in the intimidation, dismissal, or arrest of journalists and widespread self-censorship, points out that violations of freedom of expression increased after the corruption scandal of December 2013, considers it necessary for a legal framework to be established to enable full transparency on media group ownership, reiterates the EU's commitment to freedom of expression in all its forms and calls on the EU delegation to Turkey to continue to monitor trials of journalists and human rights defenders. 22. Condemns the recent police raids and the detention of a number of journalists and media representatives on December 14, 2014, recalls that a free and pluralistic press is the core principle of any democracy, as are due process and judicial independence, stresses, therefore, the need, in all cases, to provide ample and transparent information on the allegations against the defendants, 2. To grant the defendants full access to the incriminating evidence and full defense rights, and 3. To ensure the proper handling of the cases in order to verify the veracity of the accusations without delay and beyond reasonable doubt, calls on the authorities of Turkey to review and address these cases as soon as possible and to adhere to international due process standards in cases where it insists on pursuing the proceedings. 23. Asserts that the Turkish government's recent action against freedom of the press and plurality of opinion is incompatible with the fundamental rights of the EU and thus conflicts with the spirit of the negotiation process.